But we're just going to say 17 today because, you know, the other nutrient, the 18th one, a lot of people say you don't need that to grow plants. But you need 17 nutrients to grow plants. Now the thing is, the human body, which I'm growing a plant to eat, the human body needs 15 additional nutrients. But none of the farmers and none of modern agriculture at all worries about the nutrients that we need for our health. All they care about is providing, most of the time, it's the NPK ratio of the soil. As a result, our soils, mostly by and large, as far as modern agriculture is concerned, is completely deficient and void of any kind of micronutrients. And the thing that gives us good health, do you read me what I'm saying? So it's important to have a soil mixture that will pass the good health on to us. We want those extra 15 micronutrients in there, not to mention the 17. You know, if I was to go live on Mars and I just had those 17 items that the plant needed, the plants would grow tremendously, but I couldn't live on those plants. I would get all kind of weird thing happening to me. I might lose my memory, which a lot of people are doing today at a young age. You know, the food system in this country is broken. I love using biochar. Biochar is like charcoal. Do you know how good charcoal is for you? Oh, charcoal is one of the most wonderful things. Occasionally I get spider bites or little insect bites, and it could be a brown recluse. I don't care. I'll take charcoal for a few days, and that always wipes it out. Now, I don't want you to say I gave you a brown recluse treatment, because I'm not a doctor. I just know it works for me. Your physiology may not handle that. But biochar is like charcoal, only it's been inoculated with compost. So it is extremely packed with living organisms, microorganisms. Do you know that one pencil eraser size of biochar is the equivalent of 3 football fields of living area for those microorganisms that live in it. It just attracts tremendous amounts of living life to it. Now, I want my soil to live, just like I want my heart to live, according to the God of heaven who controls us above. When we submit to Him, I want my heart to live. I don't want a barren heart. Well, the heart is very similar to the soil. And I don't want barren soil. And this will help cure that. This is one component. So biochar is inoculated with life. And when you put it in the soil, it just makes have you ever heard of terra preta down in the Amazons? They found that they were getting plants that were growing 3 times bigger than where anywhere else agriculture was going on. And they started researching and figuring out that the soil had this burnt matter in it, and these Indians knew how to work this stuff. Now, if you make your own charcoal, let's suppose you burn wood and just stick it in the ground, your plants are not going to grow. You know why? Because that charcoal will suck an amazing amount of life to it in the beginning, and then over time it really, really will kick in, and then your plants will start to grow. But if you buy biochar, I get everything from 5th Season, by the way. All the things on this list, Calphos, biochar, worm castings, I get from 5th Season. Same with C90, Azomite, I get from 5th Season. It's a place down in Asheville. Anyway, let's move on. Worm castings, that is one of the best things you can use in soil. I like to actually have the worms in the soil, but worm castings have been cured in such a way to where it'll add a lot of life to that soil as well, which is what we're trying to achieve. I use Vermiculite and Perlite, 4 cups each, and those are an agent that basically it's like a rock that's been exploded like popcorn, and it holds air in the soil, which plants need, but it also, in a certain way, holds moisture. There are really incredible properties to vermiculite and perlite, and they're widely used today. Now this thing you might not have heard of, C90. Now, C90 is some wonderful stuff. It's incredible. There's a secret recipe about how to plant fruit trees that uses seawater. Do you know that seawater, the saline content of seawater is very close to the human body? And if there's an imbalance in the seawater, for example, let's suppose one mineral gets out of balance, the gravity pulls that mineral down of the seawater. God has made everything in this world so incredible. The gravity pulls the minerals if they get out of balance, and the seawater is perfectly balanced. And it's got over 90 minerals. Some say about 93 minerals to it. Trace elements, all kind of different things. You know, what we're doing is we're building not only the life back in our soil, but we're putting in the micronutrients that we need to live, breathe, and be healthy. Now, I can promise you, modern agriculture cares not for these things. As a matter of fact, they scoff at some of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you. Azomite is optional because of the C90. Azomite only has 70 micronutrients in it, but it's still good stuff. It's basically a rock powder that's been ground up. Fafard 3B, this is what I use. You can find it at Southern Ag down in Hendersonville. And
That's the awesome.
huh? No. That Azomite. She asked about Azomite. Azomite you get at Fifth Season. But Fafard 3B, you get this from Southern Ag down in Hendersonville, and they've got probably 20 different products, but I only use one or two. I use this mainly. A friend of mine who was a professional grower, he told me about this product, Metro Mix 360, and the only difference between this and the Fafard 3B is there's bark and bark ash. And I can see they're trying to get a little bit like the biochar, but biochar has been inoculated with compost. This, they just give you this ash and it hasn't been inoculated with anything. So it's a little similar. I can see they're trying, but this is what the professionals often use these products. They're really excellent soil conditioners. Sun-Gro products are very high quality. They drain uniformly, they retain moisture, and they provide a lot of humus to the soil. You know, that's one thing you really need in humus. Have you ever walked in the woods and you look and see how rich the soil, you know, there's almost never any plants that are dying or anything in the woods because there's a huge amount of humus. A lot of woods, you know, the trees, the leaves fall and different things every year. And there's about that much humus generally in the forest when you walk in it. And that stuff is really good at combating disease in plants and making it to where you don't get to that. It's also high in nutrients for the compost. Now, what can be done in a small space? I got this photograph from Container Gardening for Food. And this is a fellow that lives in England, and they have something over there called allotments, where if you're a really good gardener, you can apply to the government, and they may, you know, in a couple of years give you a little small, maybe 20 by 30 piece of land you can grow on. And so this fella, he had applied for an allotment, but he was waiting for a couple of years to get it. And so he made this website. This is what you can grow, all in containers. And, you know, he really did an incredible job. There's no reason why anybody in this room couldn't do a very similar thing in a small space. Now, this space that he had was 13 feet wide by 14 feet. So that's small enough, you know, you can grow an awful lot. You can do a little or a lot is the point that I would like to make. So this is a garden he had. These are potatoes. These are beans. These are beans here. That looks like eggplant. Those are onions. These are, they look like little lettuces. That looks like broccoli, onions. You have a wide variety. These, possible they could be fruit trees of some sort. You have a wide variety of what you can grow, which we will cover. So here's the infrastructure of how he made this little small garden. He made a trellis so the beans could climb up them. And then what he did, he has these little planter boxes. Now he made his 12 inches deep. I've got planter boxes that are 10 inches deep, but 12 inches is a little better than 10. I can't grow carrots in my planter boxes, but I have a fairly large garden, so it's okay. If you want to grow carrots, you're going to need to have about at least 12 inches worth of soil. He also put Grobag Extensions on the top. And what that is, that's these little things where he lays a grow bag up there and he just cuts little holes in the grow bag. So you don't have to do anything. You just put the grow bag and you cut your little holes and away you go. So there's no work involved. I don't even think he got his fingernails dirty on this. So he made the grow box is shaped like an L, and then he just made a real simple structure for the grow bags. Now he also can let some light beans crawl up this. Beans, if you're growing green beans, you're going to want to use a support like this, because green beans will grow so ferociously that they will pull almost any kind of trellis that you have made down if it's not solid. It's got to be solid. So here's his setup that's sort of before he planted everything in it. You know, you can do give or take anything like this. We're also going to cover growing in pots, which is the backbone of what he did. You know, he had pots all along this. You couldn't see it because there was so many plants. He had pots here, and these are little grow beds that he used the square foot gardening method. So this is a typical harvest that he harvested every 3 or 4 days from that garden. You can see here there's lettuces, green beans, plenty of tomatoes, onions, just about everything there, garlic. Any type of vegetable gardening needs at least 8 hours of sun daily with a south-facing exposure, preferably. But if you're getting the sun, it's not, you don't have to have that, but that is an optimal way of growing. If you have 8 hours or more with a south-facing. But like I say, you don't have to have south-facing, because my garden is north-facing, but I get about sometimes 15 hours of sun a day on that garden. It can be like the Sahara Desert in my spot. When you design your garden, make sure to take into account any taller plants that are likely to cast a shadow on other plants. You can plant shade-loving plants in such areas like lettuce. Lettuce does not like sunshine beating down on it for extended periods of time. You can have,
good. Thank you, man.
Preferably, you want to have your lettuce get maybe 4 to 5 hours of sun a day and then be shaded the rest of the day. What do you need? Proper size containers for different size plants. Tomatoes like 5-gallon plant pots. Peppers do fine in 3.5-gallon pots. Planter boxes need to be a minimum of 10 inches to 12 inches deep. Dwarf fruit trees like larger 11 to 12-gallon pots or more depending on the age. I had such good success with dwarf fruit trees. I planted them in 11.5-gallon pots, and they worked really well for me. So I actually bought a little more over the winter because it was such a good thing. Feeding your plants. One item, and you can get this item from Jesse Israel and Sons, is a product from a company called Epsom. It's called Tomato Tone. And it's a good fertilizer for peppers, tomatoes. You can use it on any kind of nightshade, which is going to be potatoes. What you need to do with tomato tone though is a lot of times I've left it just sitting on top of the soil and it gets moldy. That's not good. It's growing life in the wrong way. So I mix it in with the top part of the soil a little bit now so it won't do that on me. And I don't use a whole lot of that, but in a pinch, if you don't have a lot of time, that's an excellent product, by the way. It's organic. Now, it's not certified organic, but this company has been around for since about 1912 with this product, and all their products, they tout that they're organic, but they're not certified, and I'm not that finicky. I trust them. Another secret is add 2 tablespoons per gallon of Epsom salt to tomatoes and peppers while fruiting once every 2 weeks. Although it is safe to do this as often as desired. Now, why would they do that? Magnesium sulfate is what's in Epsom salts. There's a little bit of sulfur in it, just a small bit, and there's magnesium. And what that does, if you're going to get a pepper that's about this size, normally off that plant, it'll make the pepper about that size. And the same thing with tomatoes. It'll make your tomatoes big and robust. Adding Epsom salt solution to houseplants that have been potted for a long time is especially useful, due in part to natural salt, which can build up in the soil and clog the root cells of the plant. Epsom salt can help to clear up this accumulation of natural salts in the pot and lead to a revival in the plant's health and vibrancy.